Trauma certainly can be a modern day bodhisattva training. By that I mean a bodhisattva is somebody who transforms suffering into compassion. This is something that came really clear to me through the healing of my own trauma history, which erupted while I was living in this safe cocoon of a yoga ashram back in the 80s and 90s. I'm Deirdre Fay, and I've been a psychotherapist since the 1990s. And I've realized through that whole process that we don't have to be stuck in pain and lost in trauma, despairing that life will ever change. This realization came when my trauma history whacked me upside my head. I was teaching workshops and intensives at the ashram that I lived in. I loved being in my body, and I was practicing yoga, meditation, and training for triathlons multiple times a day. Yet, after my history came into my awareness, I was terrified to open up more energy, and really my duvet was my best friend, and I found myself huddling away from people. And yet, all the ancient sacred texts said there was a path out of suffering, and you know what? I wanted that path. I wanted to experience my body as a temple for my soul instead of being racked by pain the way that it was. As I was able to heal the pieces of my own trauma, I was able to go to India for advanced training. And in those days, practicing yoga in India was very simple. It was a simple life. And, you know, I'd heard the rumors of sleeping on the floor and not always having running water. So on the way to the hinterlands for the yoga training, I stopped in Delhi to get some supplies, things like utensils and a sheet and a blanket to sleep with and on, a little blow-up pillow. So when I got to the ashram, I saw that there were some amazing upgrades. Everything was new and clean, lovely, it was great. So I still see this so clearly in my mind's eye. So imagine my surprise when I turned into my bedroom, the room I was going to be in, and saw the bed. I wasn't going to be sleeping on the floor. Yay! I was going to be sleeping on a brand new block of concrete shaped into a cot. That's right. A solid block of concrete, kind of short. My feet hung over the end of it, dangling a little bit. And there was no mattress, no springs. It was solid concrete. And can I tell you, I was glad I had gotten those supplies in Delhi. I thought, okay, here we go, adventure. You know, the great thing was I was off the floor. Not that being on the floor is such a bad thing, but the actual training happened in an open air pavilion where we would sit on the floor as a group. And the women, like me, were in simple saris and the men in lungis. And we'd sit that way for hours listening to Guru talk. And I'll be honest, it was hot. And my mind would wander on occasion. There was this moment, though, I'll never forget. And I'll never know what snapped me out of the reverie I was in at the time. But the Guru started telling me this story from one of the ancient texts in yoga. In this story, the fetus before birth at 8 months gets a powerful message from its soul about who it's meant to be in this lifetime. And yet, through the pain of birth, the infant forgets. Our lives, then, are the process of remembering what we've forgotten, remembering this message and finding our way home to our soul. It was like a thunderbolt woke me to what I'd always known, that trauma isn't something to mire us in our pain or have us be stuck forever. Our suffering can be a doorway to open the heart of compassion. And over the years, as I've taken this message to heart, as I've been practicing finding step-by-step processes on how to use the suffering of life to clean the rust off of my own heart, I've also been exploring this with other people whose suffering can happen in big, horrible, destructive ways. Or perhaps in the hidden paths where we look okay on the outside while we're living shamed and in pain on the inside, maybe hiding away. Or maybe through the uncomfortable social moments and personal interactions where I or others make mistakes, big or small, where we have these social faux pas, where we hurt others, where we take life personally and we barricade our hearts from further pain. In all those times, I have to remind myself to see the best in life, the best in others, the best in me. And practice seeing what Saint-Exupéry says in The Little Prince, that we're unique in all the world, beautiful underneath the rust of our lives. So perhaps you'll join me in practicing seeing my mistakes and your mistakes and the many little mistakes we all make every day as reminders of how life is scrubbing the rust off our hearts so we can remember who we really are. So we can see the radiant, luminous heart of each of us that's often obscured by the protective rust of our suffering. And through that find our way back to ourselves. I'm Deirdre Fay, and it's an honor to be walking this path with you, supporting you in finding your way back to yourself.